Hello?
Jesse.
Over there.
Yeah. We're showing 6 o'clock.
Are we live?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, meeting called to order at 6 p.m. Roll call, Valerie Garcia,
Here.
Vanessa Navarrete, Jesse Arroyos,
Here.
Jim Shane,
Here.
I'm President John Tomerlin, Janine Worthen,
Here.
Brian Sepula. All right, moving on to item 3, Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 4, consent agenda. Pursuant to section 246D, matters listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. Prior to consideration of the consent agenda, the chairperson will ask whether any members of the committee request any item be removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion. Item 1, approval of minutes of CDC regular session minutes of January 25th, 2024. A motion to approve the consent agenda.
I motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Alright, item 5, new business. Doing projects. Project A, discussion/update on Jesse Arroyos being assigned to be the representative of the Superior Chamber of Commerce on the Community Development Committee. This appointment was approved by the Town Council on June 13th, 2024.
I think that I'm not sure how much discussion is necessary. We just discussed it. Welcome. As you know, there are some direct appoint positions on the council. The youth council, the chamber, resolution have direct appoint positions on the council, so are in the committee. So glad to have another person so we can actually get quorums, which is nice.
All right, item B, discussion/update on the status of the helipads at the airport.
I put up a slideshow so you can see progress as it have been going over the last couple of months. The landing zones, the concrete is all in, the wiring underneath the slab's all in. The delay right now is we're waiting for. Somebody got dropped. We're still dialed in, so they just have to dial it. All right, so we don't have to hang up or anything. We do this.
It's already connected. I think Janine just lost. No, I think it's good. She just dropped.
Yeah, it's not on our end this time. Well, I need a soundtrack for our meeting. The landing zones are complete pending the delivery of the lights, which are on back order. They're supposed to be here at the end of this month, but I have not yet seen them arrive. As soon as they're done, we're gonna do a. We still have to have the thermal tape as well put on there with the H on it for helicopter. As soon as the lights are done, we'll probably have a grand opening on it. Right now, it has no power running from APS. APS has done the survey, and on the next council agenda, we'll have the contract on the easement, right-of-way easement, for them to run a new underground power line into the site. It'll be a nice 3-phase setups with big enough transformers to supply the future project phases. Future project phases include perhaps a AWAS, which is an automated weather system, and we also need to have a terminal building of some sort. So Both of those have been submitted to ADOT and our ASIP, Airport Capital Improvement Plan, which is what this was funded through. This project is $480,000. It started as just over $100-something thousand, but the price of concrete went through the roof, and the price of electrical equipment went through the roof. So the project budget had serious bloat. But it's all completed now. We've paid the first half of the payment, and we're waiting on the electrical bill to complete to do the second half payment. Hopefully this will be early July. We'll have our grand opening and people can start using it.
So Todd, a few questions. You mentioned terminal and electricity. Is it possible we would get ADOT funding for those items?
The electricity, no. They will not pay for utility infrastructure, hence the hydrant problem that we have.
Yeah.
But they will, the ADOT may give us an offset for future use. So if we have a demand load that justifies the expense of running the line in, they'll run the line in. Problem is we don't have much activity out there now, so justifying that's, we don't know how much they're going to offset it.
So the other question was, yeah, I understand it doesn't have lights and it doesn't have an H, but it would still be safer than them landing at the school. So, but they can't use it until
It's still a
signed off.
construction zone. It's still under a notice to airmen, so they will not use it until it's done. When it's done, like I said, we'll have a grand opening. It will be set up so that we can plug a generator to it until the power gets running. I don't know how long the APS power to run it's going to take. But fire department carries the generators; they can just plug one in it. There's two.
I have another question. So there's two landing. They can, if there's a really bad accident and you have multiple choppers, they both can.
Yes.
At the same time.
Yes, it's got two landing zones there. They can land on the runway as well if there's more need. So the largest scene I've ever seen is 5 helicopters. But generally they don't, in a scene that bad, they shut the whole highway down and just landing them on the highway.
Yeah.
The more routine operations, 2 is fine. This is also the main helibase for any fire in the region. With both the Telegraph and the other fire to the north, they use this for their helipad operations, for their helitech. But having a hydrant there would really expand that usefulness, so we're going to continue to work on the hydrants. We did submit it as an earmark. It got through the first phase. It was selected, but then it didn't make it into the final approved budget. Fire truck did, but the hydrants did not.
Thank you.
Any other questions about this one?
All right, hearing none, we'll move on to item C, discussion and update on the multi-gen.
Okay, and let me get some pictures up on that. Poor little laptop struggling a little bit. So on the multi-gen, as you'll see in the pictures if they ever load, the air conditioners are installed on the building. The ducting is complete. The vents on the eaves are complete. They're going to be installing the thermostats here soon. The gas line was a change order. The old gas line was substandard, it leaked. So we had to do a change order to replace all the gas lines into that building. And that has been slowly progressing. That will be the next item completed. The trenching you see there is the new power setup for the the building. It's a completely new service entrance. The service entrances, we got funded through, this one's funded through USDA. Hence it's 6-7 months behind the actual air conditioners. So SHPO State Parks, Historic Preservation, funded the air conditioners. So we've completed that grant, paid the grant out, are done with that grant. The next phase is the electrical, and that's through USDA. At $90,000, it's actually a fairly significant savings over what we had budgeted for it. We also got the service entrance for the Enterprise Center installed, and that installation was done by grants from Resolution Copper, so we didn't have to pay for that. So all told, the budget was around $400,000 for that. And thus far, we've spent about $80,000. So we're doing well on the budget. There will be more money at the end for installing stuff. You can see each unit has a return and a blower, and there are 8 units total on the building. It's probably significantly more cooling than we actually need for the building, but modern code has calculations for the volume of outside air you have to have. And unless you have a dedicated outside air system, which is very expensive, they are, it would have cost more than the budget for just one dedicated outside air system. Doing these smaller units, you just have to have more of them to get enough outside air for it to function. We are in the process of working with CPLC to put a technology center in the second story of the Enterprise Center. That will be funded by CPLC and AZ Strut. We're going to do some bootstrapping, do some of the work ourselves, and build out as much of that as we can. It shouldn't be a huge expense. A good portion of money, when you use Fed money, a good portion of money goes to meeting the requirements of the grant. For instance, the $2 million to modify the main building, meaning that there's a requirement for ADA accessibility, so we'll have to spend $600,000 on an elevator. So we'll also have to spend $500,000 on engineering. So
the elevator's $600,000, but it's $500,000 to engineer it?
no, for the rest of the whole building all put together. That's for all the plans. And again, if we can bootstrap some of it, some of those sections will fall off. But like for instance, just the set of plans to move to the next phase, which is the main admin building without the elevator, it's $100,000 just for a set of plans. So all these things add up, but without a set of plans, we have to do an architectural full set. It has to be sent to the USDA architect, and they have to review it and approve it. The SHPO has to approve it. Then we can build it. And until I have all that done, I can't even ask for money on it. So we were lucky we got the electrical approved as a separate item up front. The USDA was willing to work with us on that. So we're moving forward on the electrical feeds. But the later modifications, it's going to take more time. This phase has the most structural changes because it's got the bathrooms and the workout spaces in the gym, and it's got the admin spaces on the front of the building. Most of the rest of the stuff is fairly minor changes. With the library has a few little partition walls and things. The senior center has a few small changes where it adds another bathroom, it just changes a couple of partition walls, but nothing to quite the level of the actual front building modifications, which are the first and next. So we'll have the plans on the main building, and then we'll have the plans on the elevator. Those things will be where we spend most of the money, and it will happen first. And then we have the subsequent phases are the senior center and the library. The Enterprise Center may fall off completely if we can bootstrap it. We won't even need their money, so we'll just take that off the budget, which that's about $280,000 that was on the budget. So whenever we can bootstrap, we prefer to do that. This whole building was bootstrapped. We just, our public works crew, when they had time, came in and they fixed things. And over time, all the fixes mean that the building's usable. So, doesn't mean it's a Cadillac, obviously with our air conditioner, which has been working for 2 hours and has lowered the temperature 5 degrees. It is, and from our, with our experience, that's the best way to do it. Fed money just takes so long. Like the wastewater treatment plant, we're on 9 years to get the wastewater treatment plant done. So we are on 2019 is when we started on the multi-gen center. So 5 years into the multi-gen.
Todd, I understood that the idea is an inauguration in 2026. That's
It's still the goal, and I think it's doable. Again, getting a set of plans has been the biggest hurdle. If we can get a set of plans and get it approved, hiring contractors, getting the work done should go significantly faster. Like the whole build out on the air conditioners were about 6 months, but a good 3 months, 4 months of that was waiting for parts to come. So hopefully we'll go, once we get the plans approved, everything will start to speed up.
Are there any other questions or discussions on item C? Alright, hearing none, we'll move on to item D, discussion and update on the US Highway 60 bridge construction and timeline.
There haven't been major drifts in the timeline. We continue to work with the contractor. They're still in the blasting phase. Today there was a blast that did not go well, as we all know, and it was closed an extra 3.5 hours. Hopefully there won't be many more of those. As we all remember from Pinot Valley and from the other projects where there was major blasting involved, once the blasting phase is done, the inconvenience goes way down. But they're still blasting that one escarpment, and will be for a little while.
Are they concerned with the integrity of the tunnel with the blasting?
There was geotech done about that, significant geotech done. One of the things that they found is less the integrity of the tunnel and more that there are voids underneath it. So the old mining or just natural caving, nobody knows, but there's huge voids underneath that structure.
I'll remember that when I drive through.
Apparently there's one spot where there's a 30-foot tall cavern. Which is, it ties into a lot of things. It explains why the creek's fractured and why water seeps into the underground workings and the creek doesn't flow anymore. All those things are related. The concentrator fault right above town is the separation between we're in the middle of a subsided caldera. Picket Post is an old volcano, and it's a huge basin, 30 miles across. There's a crack that goes down the center of it, and that's this range above us. We are subsiding, we're going down, and everything that way is going up. And it's more weathered, it's higher, it's softer rock, so it's got natural voids, it's got, but it also means that the ore body was lifted higher to the surface. So that's why it's got so much mining activity and why it's so undermined. So is the mining activity why there's fractures and why there's voids, or is there fractures and voids because of the nature of the rock? It's impossible to tell.
So I know in the original bid for the project, there is some work on the tunnel, but my understanding is it was just, like plastering. It wasn't a big deal. Has any of that changed?
It had no, not to my knowledge. It had a complete facelift about 4 or 5 years ago. So all new lighting and repairs. So I don't see that it's a problem. The Waterfall Canyon Bridge is above it, and the Queen Creek Bridge is below it. So there's going to be a work around there the whole time. But to my knowledge, there's nothing really planned for that tunnel in a serious nature.
Any other questions on item D? All right, thank you, Todd. Moving on to item 6, summary of current events. Committee members.
Tomorrow we leave for nationals for SUCLA. So we're taking David Drennan and Caitlin Kamsaras to Seattle, Washington. And then the youth council also has the 4th of July, which will be on the 5th of July, and they have a schedule for all of that good stuff as well.
And I just wanted to say welcome again to Jesse. We're happy to have you. Speaking of new members, our youth council member is no longer in the youth council, so one of the projects the youth council is going to work on, hopefully before our next meeting, is appointing a new member.
I don't have anything. Looking forward to fireworks. Okay.
All right, moving on to item 7, scheduling of next meeting, CBC meeting, July 25th, 2024.
So a reminder, we do not have any meetings scheduled in August, so if we do have agenda items in July, please do share them with me. Anything you'd like to see on the agenda?
All right, moving on to item 8, adjournment. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
A motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned at 6:21.
Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ruby.